Last month, the FBI announced that it was opening an exploration process to determine how a social media application could help in its efforts. The Bureau is asking technology companies to develop a system that would automatically sift through social networking sites for signs of potential terrorism, crime, or other matters of national security. And while the idea is simply nothing more than that at this point, it already has people questioning how it would work, what its implications would be on privacy and free speech, and more. So to help us answer some of these uncertainties, we're going to bring in Sean Gourley, the co-founder and CTO of quantitative analytics firm Quid. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sean.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, great. Well, as I said, this social media application for the FBI is just an idea in the very early stages. But how would you envision this to look?
Look, that's right. It is just a request for a proposal at the moment. So the FBI is really kind of sitting out here and saying, what can be done? Where are the current technological capabilities of the experts in this industry? And, what they're really looking for is for something that will track and monitor social media streams to do two things. And the first is to identify crises or events, kind of bombs or kind of weather, hurricane type things. Or terrorist activities. And the second that they're looking for is to try and create predictive models that would analyze the Facebook updates or Twitter statuses or Foursquare check-ins that may be indicative of what they call bad actors. And that would be kind of, the bad guys in the movies that they'd be sort of looking for.
So it would almost be a type of software such as Quid, how companies use Quid to track clients and things like that within their businesses. It would be like that for the FBI.
So you could think of what Quid does for corporate strategy and corporate intelligence. You could think of applying the same kind of data collection methodologies, the same kind of mathematical models and visualization to the task of FBI tracking terrorists and bad actors.
Okay. Well, while it makes sense that the information could help the FBI catch some criminals, it could also be a real challenge for them. So can you talk about some of these and even set up some potential scenarios for us?
So look, absolutely, this is highly experimental at the moment. There has been a lot of social media monitoring. I mean, you can look at companies like Radian6 or indeed the company Cosmix that was acquired by Walmart Labs. They do the traditional kind of social media monitoring, which really focuses around kind of sentiment analysis and kind of brand monitoring. But what the FBI is looking to do is to kind of piece together multiple data streams to say, was there an attack that occurred in northern Afghanistan? And you could think about, monitoring kind of, updates saying, I heard an explosion around the corner from me, or, there is smoke rising from the building, around the side, or people are running and panicking. And this kind of would create a mathematical signature that may be indicative of a terrorist attack that would hit the radar of the FBI, potentially, up to an hour before our mainstream media may even be aware of it. And so, what they're trying to do is go a little bit beyond just kind of, is this a good tweet or a bad tweet, to say, what actually happened in the world, and when can we know it, and can we be the first to know it?
Mm-hmm. But it could be difficult to really discern the real versus the fake just based on things like keywords and stuff, right?
Right, so this is where it gets tricky, because you've not only got a sense of a keyword like, bomb. Bomb can mean many things. Kanye West is the bomb is very different from, a bomb exploded in Kirkuk. But this is part of the challenge, and that's why it hasn't been invented yet. And so this is some of the things that will have to be tackled as we go along.
Right. Well, although the FBI has made it clear that it would only utilize the publicly available information from users, there are groups that are raising both privacy and free speech concerns over it. Do you think that these concerns are legitimate?
Look, I think any time you are tracking people's activities to infer a type of behavior that has significant consequences, people are going to start to get worried. Mm-hmm. So, that's perfectly natural. We've sort of evolved over the last 3 or 4 years into a kind of a habit as a society of sharing information. We share, the location through Foursquare. We share, our review of food on Yelp, and we kind of update our status to let people know how we feel about a certain movie. And we're okay with doing this, and sort of the bargain that we've entered into is, well, I get access to Facebook if I share information, and Facebook gets to serve me ads that will, hopefully, persuade me to buy something. So we've sort of entered this bargain as a society to share information in return for being served ads. What we haven't really, at least not consciously, entered into is sharing information in return for perhaps being identified as a bad actor by the FBI. Now, actually, as it happens, when you do share information in return for advertising, you actually are also signing up for anyone else using that information to do what they please with it.
Right. But what's interesting about this is that it's almost a backward approach, because social media outlets fought sort of an uphill battle initially to be accepted by mainstream media. But now that they essentially are, mainstream media is sort of monitored by the government all the time. So why is this different, do you think?
Well, in many ways, it's not that different from the kind of the phone call, monitoring that, the NSA and various other groups have been doing for a long time. When you get on a phone system, there is a chance to kind of pick up keyword analysis and then potentially record what's being said. So now we're doing it on a sort of a more open and more public channel. In many ways, that's sort of an outgrowth of existing and older technology that's been there. And indeed, the whole kind of concept of open source intelligence has been around with us since the Second World War. Now, in that case, they're actually monitoring the price of oranges in French towns to kind of see if there were fluctuations in price, which might be indicative of a bridge being blown up. And so we've always been sort of using this kind of open source intelligence. It's just kind of evolved now to take advantage of the data streams that we have in front of us.
Absolutely, and it would almost seem reflect poorly, rather, on the U.S. government if this data wasn't utilized at this point. Well,
as far as the FBI is concerned, if a company like Radian 6 can know more about a brand than you can know about a bomb in Afghanistan, the FBI looks pretty stupid.
Right.
So, this is absolutely the kind of things that they want to be using and need to be doing to do their job properly. Mm-hmm. What's interesting, actually, is the fact that the FBI isn't developing this stuff. They're actually having to come out to Silicon Valley and actually say, hey, can you give us a hand trying to do it? And it used to be when I graduated, with a physics degree and mathematics, that the top people in my class would go out to the NSA and they would work with, the government to kind of do this kind of mathematical analysis. Now that sort of gone in two ways. Now with Wall Street kind of collapsed, all the top mathematicians are coming out to the Valley and trying to figure out how to serve better ads to make you buy more things. And so the FBI in some ways is kind of having to play catch up.
Absolutely, that's very interesting. Well, is this idea that as a whole something that you could see technology companies wanting to participate in readily?
Look, I think the sad truth is there's more money in selling ads to Facebook users at the moment, and out here the dollar is king. I do think that there will be some companies that will participate in this, and any money on the table from the government is money that companies can kind of take. But the kind of dollars that they're looking at here really do pale in comparison to what can be earned from serving social media ads.
All right. Well, it'll be very interesting to see how this turns out. Sean, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Reporting for WebProNews, I'm Abby Johnson.